Hey guys, tonight we're slipping barefoot into the humid dawn of 14th century Java. The roosters have just announced their superiority. The morning mist still clings to the ground like gossip, and your stomach is already rumbling. You shuffle across the bamboo floor of your family's stilted house, each creak underfoot a reminder that comfort wasn't exactly a medieval priority. The air smells like wet earth, wood smoke, and yep, you guessed it, rice. Everything starts with rice. It's the center of the table, the heart of the culture, the reason your ancestors have been bending over in muddy fields for generations. This isn't the fluffy jasmine rice you might find at a modern restaurant. This is rough, local, steaming hot, and handled with reverence. Even the word for meal and rice are interchangeable in the local tongue. If it's not rice, it's not breakfast. Full stop. The fire is already crackling in the earthen hearth, flames licking at a clay pot that has somehow survived the past three family feuds. Inside, today's batch of nasi puti, plain white rice, gently simmers. But don't expect salt or butter. You're centuries too early for that luxury. Your seasoning is thyme, texture, and smoke. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, drop your location and local time in the comments. Let's see who else is up wandering through medieval mornings with us. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You squat near the hearth, watching the rice bubble. A thick wooden spatula sits nearby, darkened with age and stained from 100 breakfasts. Outside, the chickens strut arrogantly, like they've paid rent. You're not even sure what time it is. No clocks here, just shadows and instincts. You know this rhythm. Every morning begins like this. Your job? Fetch water. Someone else gathers the firewood. Grandma complains that today's rice grains are too lazy to stick. She says that a lot. You're not entirely sure what it means, but you nod solemnly anyway. The first real bite of the day is usually just plain rice, scooped into your palm, still steaming. You blow on it, shaping it into a small ball with practiced fingers before popping it into your mouth. It's soft, slightly sticky, and somehow sweet in the way warm starch can be. No fancy toppings yet, just rice and the rising sun. Historians still argue whether most commoners in 14th century Java had rice at every meal, or just when the harvest allowed. But here in your modest village, you do your best. Rice is more than food, it's status. When the pot is full, your family is respected. When it's empty, people notice. And it's not just one kind of rice. You've got white rice when times are good, red rice when times are lean, glutinous rice when someone's been blessed with a wedding or a baby or a surprisingly cooperative buffalo. There's even fermented rice porridge, which smells a little like regret and sour fruit, but is oddly satisfying when paired with fried shallots and a sharp appetite. Oh, and rice isn't only eaten, it's spoken to. You've heard the elders mutter thanks to Dewi Shri, the rice goddess, before the first grain touches anyone's lips. That's not superstition. That's breakfast protocol. Forgetting it? Yeah. You probably won't survive that level of grandma-level side-eye. You glance across the hut. A younger cousin sneezes dramatically, clearly hoping this might get him out of chores. It won't. You're sent outside to check the bamboo steamer. It sits perched above another fire, neatly stacked with hand-woven baskets full of ken, sticky rice that practically glues your molars together. You lift the lid. A fragrant puff escapes, sweet, nutty, and floral, thanks to a lone pandan leaf tucked inside. You inhale deeply. That's the good stuff. Here's a quirky little fact. Javanese folks in this period sometimes tinted their rice using natural dyes. Flowers, leaves, even crushed insects, for all you know. Not to make it pretty, though it kind of is, but to align with rituals. Blue for funerals, yellow for gratitude, green when you're really hoping the monsoon holds off just one more day. One thing you're always careful about is portioning. Waste is more than frowned upon. It's spiritually dangerous. Food left uneaten might offend the spirits that helped you grow it. Plus, leftovers go to livestock, or if they're lucky, the neighbor's scrawny dog who insists on howling through your dreams. You plop back down beside the hearth, balancing your rice ball between fingers. No utensils here. Not because you're primitive, because your fingers know what they're doing. You press, fold, swipe. The rice doesn't just fill your belly, it tells you everything's still okay. That for today at least, you're fed. Your home is warm, and your fire hasn't gone out. Remember that rice goddess? There's a tiny woven shrine tucked in the corner, barely noticeable. Before breakfast, someone already left a pinch of hot rice and a smear of palm sugar there. An offering, a tiny edible thank you note to the unseen hands. You munch slowly, letting the heat soften your tongue. Outside, the village stirs. Traders pass with creaking carts. A rooster tries to fight a goat. Someone sneezes again, possibly for attention. Your father mutters about the day's work, clearing a new patch near the river. You pretend not to hear. As the last bits of sticky rice cling to your fingertips, you glance around. Someone drops a coconut outside, and a child shrieks with glee. Another day has begun, and you're ready, because you had rice. The thing that starts all things. You think you know rice, but then you realize not all rice is created equal. After that first mouthful of steaming white grain, breakfast doesn't just end there. You're about to discover that the morning menu in 14th century Java is surprisingly diverse, especially if your family's rice barn isn't scraping bottom this week. The types of rice laid out on your mat reflect not only taste, but class, belief, and luck. Sometimes you eat to fill your stomach. Other times you eat to impress the ancestors, or that nosy neighbor who keeps pretending she's not watching your porch. This morning, Grandma decides it's a Katan Hitam day. Black, sticky rice, dense and sweet like memory. You watch her open a woven basket, releasing a puff of heat that smells of smoke and molasses. The rice itself gleams in shades of dark purple, almost black, thanks to the natural pigment in the grain. It's been soaked overnight, then steamed to chewy perfection. On top, a sprinkle of grated coconut and a whisper of palm sugar. It's dessert for breakfast, but only if the harvest's been kind. You scoop some with your fingers and take a bite. It sticks to your teeth, makes your tongue tingle, and satisfies some ancient primal craving for sugar. This is festival rice, ceremony rice, the kind served after good dreams and clean omens. Meanwhile, the neighbors down the slope might be stuck with beras menir, broken rice. It's what happens when you sift the good grains from the batch and end up with a bowl of crumbs. Less sticky, more soggy, but still rice. Still breakfast. You don't waste food in this village. You stretch it. You doctor it with salt or fry it with shallots, maybe even throw in a wild chili if you're feeling brave and don't care about sweating through your tunic. Historians still argue whether broken rice was intentionally separated for lower classes or if it simply became the peasant fallback. Either way, you grow up learning not to complain. You're taught to see rice not as a luxury, but as a sacred right, earned by muddy feet and bent backs. And there's more. Sometimes you get nasi liwet, rice cooked in coconut milk, spiked with bay leaves and galangal, and simmered until it tastes like the kitchen itself is giving you a hug. This isn't everyday fare. It's for when a relative returns from far away, or when someone's baby finally cuts their first tooth without screaming like a ghost all night. You remember the last time your aunt made it. The smell traveled 2 houses down, and a small crowd accidentally wandered in just as the pot opened. Then there's nasi jagung, rice stretched with ground maize. A survival tactic. Drought years, mostly. You remember your uncle frowning into his bowl, muttering, "This isn't rice, it's pretending." Still, you eat it. It fills you. It works. You lean back on your elbows, chewing thoughtfully. The older kids are already talking about the next morning's meal. Will there be tumpeng, the cone-shaped rice mound used for blessings and birthdays? Probably not. That takes too long. But even the shape matters. Triangular rice? That's a connection to the mountain gods. Round rice cakes? That's harmony and family. Sometimes there's fermented rice porridge called tapai. It's sour. It's strange. It smells like a mix between spoiled fruit and wet socks. But it has its fans. Your cousin swears it gives her good dreams, whatever that means. You tried it once and saw a squirrel playing a bamboo flute in your sleep, so maybe she's not entirely wrong. And while you eat, you listen. Your grandmother's stories swirl around the rice. She says each grain holds a soul, that the rice plant cries when harvested. That wasting rice means offending not just the goddess Dewi Shri, but your own karma. You nod along. Even if part of your brain says, "Sure, Grandma," another part takes her very seriously. You don't joke about rice spirits. That's how you end up with a haunted paddy field or frogs raining from your roof. You glance at the rice baskets lined up near the kitchen wall. Woven from palm leaves, they breathe. literally. The rice inside stays cool and dry because the container knows it's holding something sacred. Each basket has its own smell, some herbal, some nutty, one that always smells slightly like rain. Quirky fact time. Certain villages dyed rice with turmeric, not just for taste, but to protect the belly from bad dreams. Imagine waking up, chewing golden rice, and hoping it keeps your nightmares about toothless demons at bay. Hey, could be worse. You could still be eating raw taro root. That stuff's basically poison if prepared wrong. Another reason rice wins. Today, you spot a small twist, nasi uduk. It's rare in your area, mostly eaten by traders and travelers from the West. Cooked in coconut milk, fragrant with lemongrass and cloves, it smells foreign, luxurious. You ask where it came from, and your older brother just shrugs, trade. He always says that. It's his excuse for everything strange and delicious. You pause, fingers hovering over the bowl. The thought hits you. Your breakfast isn't just food. It's a map. It tells you where you are in the world, what season it is, how rich your family feels this week, and even which gods you're hoping to impress. As the fire crackles and your belly warms, you're suddenly aware that rice is never just rice. It's white, black, yellow, fermented, sticky, crumbly, boiled, steamed, blessed, borrowed, and sometimes stolen. It's coated in coconut or buried in banana leaves. It comes with stories, rules, and warnings. You finish your last bite and sigh. There's more work to do today, sure. But for now, you've eaten your history. Your fingers are still sticky with rice when someone drops a mortar and pestle in your lap. It's sambal time. If rice is the body of breakfast, sambal is the soul, or maybe the slap in the face that wakes it up. You trudge over to the wooden slab outside the house where a few others are already prepping. There's no escaping it. You're on sambal duty this morning. Everyone takes turns, and today it's your turn to do the morning grind, literally. You sit cross-legged with a heavy stone mortar between your knees. A woven basket beside you holds the usual suspects: shallots, garlic, a pinch of salt, some shrimp paste wrapped in a burnt banana leaf, and, of course, chilies. Lots of chilies. The little red ones. The kind that look harmless, but have you breathing through your ears 10 seconds after you taste them. Your cousin smirks as she tosses in an extra handful. You glare. She grins. That's breakfast politics. You start with the garlic and shallots, smashing them into a fragrant paste. Then come the roasted chilies. The moment you crush the first one, your nose tingles, your eyes water, and your fingers burn just a little. That's how you know it's working. In modern terms, it's like making espresso, except instead of caffeine, it's capsaicin lighting up your nervous system like a bonfire. Historians still argue whether sambal in this form actually existed in 14th century Java exactly as it does today. But spicy relishes, crushed herbs, and chili-based pastes? Absolutely. If it wasn't sambal yet, it was definitely its angry, delicious ancestor. And here's a spicy little tidbit for you. The Javanese believed that fiery food didn't just heat the body, it kept dark spirits at bay. A plate without heat was an open invitation for misfortune to sit down and borrow your toothbrush. The paste thickens as you grind, releasing a scent that's part temptation, part challenge. A chicken nearby flaps its wings and flees, probably offended. You lean over the mortar, wiping sweat from your brow with the back of your wrist, and whisper your secret ingredient, a splash of jaruk parut, kaffir lime juice. Just a drop, squeezed fresh. That tangy, citrusy hit that brightens the whole bowl and makes the neighbors peek over and ask, "Whose sambal is that?" By the time you're done, your arms ache and your eyes sting, but the bowl glows red and glistening, almost alive. Someone steals a taste with their fingertip, then promptly runs off in search of water. Victory. You serve the sambal beside the rice like a precious gem, tucked neatly onto a banana leaf or clay plate. It's not poured or slathered. No, that would be barbaric. It's dabbed, nudged, invited to flirt with each mouthful of rice, fish, or egg. Speaking of eggs, breakfast today includes telur pindang, eggs slowly simmered in a mixture of shallot skins, tamarind, and salt. The result? A marbled brown shell and an earthy, slightly sour taste that pairs perfectly with the sambal. You crack one open, peel it slowly, and watch the steam rise. The yolk is deep yellow and dense, the kind that fills your belly with just a few bites. Sambal finds its way into everything. On grilled banana stems, on chunks of fried cassava, even stirred into porridge when someone's being dramatic about their tired digestion. You remember that one time your uncle swore off chilies for a week after a bad dream involving a fiery-tongued forest demon. He lasted 2 days. You wonder aloud who first decided to grind peppers with salt and garlic until it burned so good. Your grandmother laughs and says it was a woman with a headache and a bad marriage. No one questions it. The grindstone, you realize, holds secrets. It's worn smooth from years of pounding. One edge is chipped, probably from when your cousin dropped it on his toe last planting season. He still tells the story like he lost the entire foot. You imagine every household has a mortar like this. Not just a tool, but a record of breakfasts, arguments, reconciliations, and experiments gone horribly wrong. Quirky fact, in some villages, the sambal mortar was passed down like a family heirloom. It wasn't just for food, it was for luck. You weren't supposed to clean it with water. You wiped it, carefully, reverently, because washing away the old sambal might also wash away the family's blessings. You pause between bites, lips tingling, wondering if that's true. Then you take another bite and decide, who cares? This sambal is amazing. As you eat, someone throws a wild herb onto the fire. The smoke changes. A sweeter, medicinal aroma wafts up. That's no accident. The smell is part of the meal. It's meant to balance the heat in your mouth with calm in your breath. The Javanese really knew how to orchestrate a breakfast. This isn't just eating, it's ritual. Your mouth burns gently now, but the kind of burn that makes you feel more alive than ever. Your fingers shine with oil. A bead of sweat trails down your cheek. You reach for a handful of rice and chase it with a nibble of salted fish. The combination hits like a lullaby and a lightning strike at the same time. The morning grind is done. You lean back on your elbows, your work complete, and let out a long breath. The sambal glows in the bowl beside you, red and oily and ready for whatever comes next. You made it. You survived the heat. And tomorrow, someone else gets the mortar. You barely have time to recover from the sambal when the floor mats come out. Because breakfast in your world is never a solo act. It's shared, cross-legged, shoulder to shoulder, on mats woven from pandan leaves that still smell a little like the riverbanks they came from. You sit low, just inches above the cool bamboo floor, legs tucked awkwardly to avoid brushing against the ember pit in the middle of the room. Someone fans the coals. Someone else yells at a chicken trying to wander inside. Everyone, somehow, ends up with a bit of someone else's breakfast on their plate. Food is communal. You don't have your own plate unless you're sick, cursed, or a prince, and you're not a prince. Instead, banana leaves get unrolled like scrolls across the mat, each one green, veined, and slightly curled at the edges. They hold little mounds of rice, bits of salted fish, slices of boiled taro, and that brilliant red sambal you just made. You'll all eat from them, fingers flying, sharing from the same spread. The morning sun creeps across the floor, highlighting beads of oil on the banana leaves like jewels. The baby in the corner squeals as he tries to grab a ball of sticky rice, and the mat becomes a battlefield. Laughter, small arguments, someone swearing the fish tastes different this morning. It doesn't. Historians still argue whether meals like these were truly egalitarian or subtly stratified by age, gender, or status. But in your house, the rules are fluid. Elders get first dibs, sure, but once the rice is passed around, it's every hand for itself. You learn early on to keep an eye on your favorite slice of fried tempeh before your cousin snatches it. Again, there's something chaotic and deeply peaceful about this moment. Food isn't served to you. It happens around you. Someone reaches over your shoulder to grab a handful of something. Someone else passes you a piece of banana wrapped in warm coconut. A stray grain of rice sticks to your knee. You're not even mad. A bowl of sayur lodeh, vegetable stew in coconut milk, sits nearby, its contents just barely recognizable under the floating layer of oil and sliced chilies. You dip your fingers in carefully, avoiding the blistering red parts unless you're feeling brave. A single chunk of unripe jackfruit melts in your mouth. It tastes odd, meaty, but not, sweet, but sour. It's like chewing on a mystery. You love it. And that's breakfast, a pile of things you kind of understand, kind of don't, but still completely adore. Remember the rice from earlier? It's changed now. Pressed, pinched, swirled in sauce. It's less of a grain and more of a canvas. And here's a quirky little detail. Everyone eats at their own pace, but no one leaves until the last elder is done. You tried once, got your ear gently yanked and told, no one rushes the one who grew the rice. Fair enough. Laughter bubbles up around the mat as someone tells a joke you've heard 100 times. It's not funny, but everyone laughs anyway. That's how it works. The baby sneezes rice across the floor. The dog sniffs it, thinks twice, and waddles off. Grandma claps her hands and declares that today's sambal doesn't make her want to curse. High praise. You think back to the times when the mat was emptier. Lean years. Too much rain or too little. Then breakfast became quiet, sparse. The rice was thinner and the laughter was shorter. But today? Today the mat is full, the house is loud, and your belly is slowly joining the happy chorus. You try to snag a second piece of fried tempeh, only to find your younger cousin already chewing it, smiling like a tiny demon. You make a note to get revenge by stealing her sweet banana rice tomorrow. Fair play. Somewhere outside, a neighbor strikes a wooden gong. Time to get moving, but no one actually moves. The end of breakfast is a slow dissolve, not a sudden stop. People start talking about the day ahead. Who's going to the market? Who's fixing the fence? Who's still pretending they have a sore foot to avoid doing anything useful? You lie back on the mat, the scent of breakfast clinging to your fingers. Coconut, smoke, lime, chili. Your shirt is stained. Your jaw is tired. Your heart is full. And then someone spills their tamarind water, and it trickles toward your leg. You jump. Everyone laughs, including you. This isn't just a meal. It's a performance. A puzzle. A living, breathing thing that wraps you up, feeds you, and reminds you that no matter how strange or sticky the day ahead might be, at least you started it like this. Surrounded, full, and a little sweaty. You rise slowly, brushing rice off your pants. The banana leaves are nearly empty now, dotted with grains too stubborn to be scooped. A tiny beetle explores the edge of a leftover jackfruit skin. Someone folds up the mats, and the floor looks bare again, like the whole thing was a dream. You take one last glance at the hearth, still smoldering, and sigh. Tomorrow, it all begins again, and that's the best part. The sun isn't even fully up yet, and someone's already shouting about the fish. That's how you know it's a real breakfast day. You step outside and instantly get a noseful of the river's personality. Muddy, humid, and unapologetically fishy. Down by the banks, baskets and nets sit stacked from the pre-dawn catch, still dripping with river water and a few unlucky frogs who hitched a ride. You can hear the vendors already haggling before you even spot them. In your village, protein isn't a maybe, it's expected. And in the 14th century, before breakfast was trendy and portion sizes were ironic, fish was the real star of the morning. You make your way toward the smoke. Someone's grilling fish over an open flame, the kind that crackles and spits like it's got opinions. The fish are small, maybe no longer than your hand, but they sizzle with promise. Sprinkled with salt, rubbed with turmeric, wrapped in banana leaf if they're lucky, or skewered and charred to a crunch if they're not. You grab one with your fingers, blow on it, and bite down. The skin is crisp, the meat flaky, and the bones are, well, let's just say you get good at chewing carefully. If you're under 10 years old, you've definitely swallowed at least 2 fish bones already this year. It's practically a rite of passage. Historians still argue whether inland villages relied more on preserved fish or fresh catches, but here, the river is your fridge, and it doesn't even charge rent. When the catch is good, breakfast smells like victory. When it's not, you make do with fermented fish paste, which tastes exactly how it sounds, and yet somehow still shows up at every wedding. This morning, you're lucky. The catch includes ikan gabis, snakehead fish. Ugly, angry-looking, delicious. It's been grilled with wild pepper leaves and smeared with that sambal you made earlier. You watch your older cousin gnaw on the head like it owes him money. Of course, it's not all grilled glory. Sometimes fish gets pepe'd, steamed inside banana leaves with lemongrass, lime, and coriander. That version is softer, less showy, but it melts in your mouth like a dream you don't want to wake from. Just don't mix up the leaf bundles, or you might end up biting into one filled with bitter leaves instead. It happened once. You still shudder. Here's a fun little tidbit. Some villagers believe eating fish first thing in the morning sharpens the brain. There's even an old saying, fish for breakfast, wisdom before noon. You once repeated that to your cousin, who promptly tripped over a goat and fell in the river, so the science may still be pending. What's not debatable is how hard people work to get that fish to your mat. The fishermen head out in the dark, long before your first yawn. They use bamboo traps, carved hooks, or just bare hands and stubbornness. Some dive straight into the shallows, grinning through mud and reeds, emerging with slippery prizes flopping in their arms. There's skill, timing, and just a bit of luck. Sometimes a fish jumps right into the boat. Sometimes it jumps out with a farewell flip. Salted fish makes its appearance when the river's stingy or you live farther from the coast. These dried salted slabs are crunchy, smelly, and powerful. You don't eat salted fish. You respect it. Just a bite can flavor an entire bowl of rice. Maybe two. It's the kind of thing you can smell from the next village over, and you usually do. You pause now, licking your fingers, the taste of smoke and salt still lingering. Around you, others are doing the same. Someone's unwrapping a dried anchovy mix. Someone else is poking at a grilled lily, catfish with a smug little mustache that makes it look like it knows something you don't. You wonder, briefly, if people in the palace are also munching on grilled fish. Probably not. They get fancy morning stews and gold-plated breakfasts. You'll learn more about that soon. But here, down by the river, this is the taste of morning. The kind that sticks to your teeth and refuses to apologize. You once asked your uncle why Javanese people eat so much fish. He looked at you like you'd asked why water is wet. Because it's there, he said. And because chickens are loud. You're not going to argue with that. Nearby, someone's already scraping fish guts into a compost pile. Chickens peck at the edges, hopeful and determined. The cycle continues, fish to fire to belly to farm. Nothing is wasted. Even the bones go back to the earth, crushed and buried under papaya trees. As breakfast winds down, you toss your last fishtail onto the fire and watch it curl up in the heat. Smoke rises, mingling with mist, and your belly is full in that specific satisfying way only grilled fish and morning rice can achieve. The mat is messier now. Oily banana leaves, bones, a forgotten salted egg. Someone's humming. Someone else is already talking about lunch. But not you. You're still here, quietly crunching the last crisp edge of skin, feeling the morning settle into your bones. You're still licking the last of the fish skin from your fingers when someone offers you a wrinkled brown slab that looks questionable. Eat, they say. You do. It's nutty, earthy, a little funky. You chew slowly, trying to place the taste, and then it hits you. This isn't meat. It isn't grain. It's beans. But not just any beans. These are fermented, and somehow they've transformed into something that tastes like it's been through battle and come out glorious. Welcome to tempeh, the accident that became a miracle. In the 14th century Javanese kitchen, tempeh is the weird cousin of rice. Unexpected, slightly unpredictable, but always welcome. Made from cooked soybeans left to ferment in banana leaves, it's a food that only exists because someone once forgot their beans in a corner and didn't immediately throw them out. Thank the mold. No, seriously. Thank Rhizopus oligosporus, the friendly fungus that makes this savory, nutty breakfast protein possible. Quirky fact. In your village, the elder women whisper that the first person to eat tempeh had a dream about a white ghost that told them not to be wasteful. You're not sure if that's culinary folklore or a digestion warning. You take another bite. It's firmer than tofu, meatier than beans, and tastes like it was cooked over a fire built by someone with opinions. Today's tempeh was sliced thin and fried crispy, almost chip-like, served alongside sweet soy sauce and a sprinkle of toasted coconut. You dip a piece, it crunches, and the flavor hits like a gentle punch to the taste buds. It's a solid protein source, which is lucky because meat is expensive. Chickens are loud and lay eggs, so no one's eager to kill them unless it's a special occasion. Cows? Forget it. They plow fields. You can't plow anything with a dead cow. So tempeh steps in, quiet, reliable, surprisingly sophisticated. Historians still argue whether tempeh as we know it today was widely consumed in the 14th century or developed later. But fermented foods, especially bean-based ones wrapped in leaves, were definitely around. Whether it was tempeh or proto-tempeh, you're chewing something ancient and something a bit alive. Because when you bite into tempeh, you're literally eating fungus. Not the scary kind. This one's helpful, even friendly. It knits the soybeans together into a firm cake, breaks down their nutrients, and gives you more protein than you'd expect from yesterday's leftovers. Your stomach nods in approval. You glance over and see Grandma cutting thicker slices for herself, steaming them this time, not frying. Steamed tempeh tastes different, more mellow, more bitter, more You'll eat it and be grateful. She dunks hers in a sauce made of tamarind, palm sugar, and smashed garlic. You wince at the smell, but admire the technique. Somehow, she always gets the balance right. Tempeh isn't always breakfast. It's not like rice, where no one would dare start the day without it. But it can be breakfast, especially after a feast day when there are leftovers, or during lean times when meat's out of reach. And unlike fish, it doesn't smell like it wants to pick a fight with your nose. You remember your first bite of raw tempeh before it was cooked. Soft, spongy, and sour. Your cousin dared you. You ate it and immediately regretted it. The aftertaste stayed with you for days. Lesson learned. Tempeh needs heat, love, and a little oil. Your aunt passes by with a plate of tempeh mendoan, thin slices dipped in spiced flour batter and lightly fried until just golden, floppy, and fragrant. You grab one, burn your fingers, and blow on it furiously. The inside is creamy, almost custard-like. The outside crackles. This is breakfast gold. And here's the thing. Tempeh changes. Depending on how long it ferments, where it's stored, and what's wrapped around it, it takes on different personalities. Too short, and it's just wet beans. Too long, and it smells like a sweaty warrior's sock. But just right, it's the perfect sidekick to your morning rice. Some villagers believe tempeh also affects your mood. That too much makes you sleepy. That the white flour mold inside it blooms in your belly and calms your spirit. Whether that's true or just poetic indigestion, you're not sure. But you do feel mellow, now, peaceful, full. You lie back on the mat again, belly rounded like a coconut. A soft breeze stirs the cooking fire, and smoke trails lazily toward the rafters. Somewhere, someone is arguing about whether tempeh should be steamed or grilled. It's the kind of argument that doesn't need a winner. Just more breakfast. You glance at the empty plate. Crumbs of fried batter and oily leaf veins remain. A few ants march confidently toward the spoils. You let them. Even they know good food when they smell it. You think about how odd it is that a moldy block of beans could taste this good. That someone, centuries ago, didn't toss it out. That instead they poked it, cooked it, and thought, yeah, I'll feed this to my children. And now here you are, eating it centuries later, chasing it with sweet black tea, and thinking about whether one more slice would be too greedy. It would be, but you'll do it anyway. You reach for another. Just when you think your breakfast adventure is done, someone drops a pile of strange, spiky ovals on the mat. Fruit time. Because in 14th century Java, your morning plate doesn't end with rice and fish. It ends, sometimes explosively, with fruit that fights back. The first thing handed to you is a salak, snake fruit. Its skin looks like polished reptile scales, brown and scaly and vaguely threatening. You crack it open with your thumb, you flinch at the sharp edge, and peel back the leathery shell to reveal pale yellow flesh underneath. The segments look like oversized garlic cloves, but smell like a mix of pineapple, honey, and mischief. You bite. It's crunchy, dry, sweet, but a little sour. Also a little like soap, maybe? Snake fruit always keeps you guessing. Historians still argue whether fruits like salak were regular breakfast items or reserved for ceremonies. But judging by the sticky hands and excited children around you right now, you're willing to bet it was both. When fruit was ripe, it was eaten. And if someone could climb the tree to get it before the monkeys did, even better. You're handed a wedge of tamarind next. Now this one? No mystery. It's sour. Brazenly so. You nibble the sticky pulp and your entire mouth contracts. Your eyebrows try to leave your face. Someone laughs. Tamarind is never subtle. It's like that one cousin who enters every room like they own it, loud, unexpected, and impossible to forget. But it's also medicine, or so you're told. Good for the blood. Cleanse the tongue, cures heatiness, whatever that is. You're not sure how sour equals healing, but the elders swear by it, especially if mixed into a tea or ground into a paste and rubbed behind the ears. You're still not over that one. Next up, mangosteen, the queen of fruits. Its dark purple shell stains everything it touches. You crack it open to reveal a white segmented center that looks like tiny marshmallows. This is a breakfast treasure. Delicate, sweet, creamy. The kind of thing your older cousin tries to steal when no one's looking. A soft debate breaks out. Is mangosteen better than rambutan? The latter is a bright red puffball, covered in soft green hairs. You pluck one from the basket, split it open, and reveal a slippery white orb inside. Juicy, sugary, fun. It slides around your mouth like it's trying to escape digestion. Here's a quirky fact. Some villagers used to say that if a girl could peel a rambutan in one clean spiral, she'd be married within the year. Your cousin tests it. The rind breaks immediately. She shrugs and keeps eating. And then there's durian. You hear it before you see it. Someone groans dramatically. The fruit arrives like a royal guest who knows they're not welcome, but came anyway. Spiky, heavy, radiating a smell that's equal parts sweet custard and old gym sock. Someone cracks it open with a machete and dares you with their eyes. You lean in, hesitate, bite, boom. Durian hits the senses like a polite explosion. It's creamy, rich, and strangely oniony. You're not sure if you're enjoying it or surviving it. You chew slowly, making exaggerated yum noises while secretly wondering if your taste buds have gone rogue. People either love it or hate it. There's no middle ground. In some villages, durian is banned from indoor gatherings. In others, it's used in courtship rituals. If you can love me after I eat durian, one proverb goes, then you truly love me. Your grandmother finishes a piece, then fans herself like she just wrestled a jungle spirit. She insists durian gives you hot blood, which sounds either energizing or like a medical emergency. You switch to something safer. Papaya, sliced into thick orange wedges, soft as jelly and dotted with glossy black seeds. It's the calm after the durian storm. Cooling, gentle, easy to chew. A relief. Like breakfast saying, sorry about earlier, here's something nice. There's also bananas, of course. Small, stubby, and shockingly sweet. They show up at every meal, almost like background actors in the breakfast play. You barely notice them until one day there's none, and suddenly the mat feels empty. Historians believe fruit in 14th century Java wasn't just food, it was also a sign of the season, a kind of edible calendar. Durian means the rains are here. Mangoes mean dry season. Tamarind? Time for ceremonies. In your village, when fruit changes, everything changes. You sit back now, surrounded by peels, rinds, and sticky fingers. Someone's washing their hands with ashes and water. Someone else is still arguing about whether jackfruit counts as a dessert or a vegetable. It's both. Somehow. The fruit basket is mostly empty. A lone guava rolls across the mat and bumps your foot. You consider chasing it, but your stomach gently says, don't you dare. Because this part of breakfast isn't just about flavor. It's contrast, lightness after salt, cool after heat, a joke after a lecture. Fruit clears the tongue and resets the brain. It's the edible version of a clean slate. You smile, full and slightly fruit-dazed, as the breeze picks up again. You can still taste the salak. You can still smell the durian. You will for hours. And you know that tomorrow's breakfast might have different fish, different rice, even different gossip. But the fruit, it will always be dramatic. Your belly's full, your fingers are sticky, and the sun has just begun its slow climb over the coconut palms. But breakfast isn't over yet, because now it's time for the real main course, gossip. And where better to catch it than the pasar, the morning market? You don't need an alarm clock to know when it's time to head there. The sounds wake you before your brain does. Vendors setting up bamboo stalls, chickens shrieking indignantly, someone yelling about the price of turmeric. You grab a palm leaf basket and your oldest cousin and head out along the dirt path. Java's 14th century markets are not quiet places, not in the early hours, especially not when half the village decides they also need coconut sugar, fermented tofu, and a scandal or two. You arrive, and it's chaos in the best way. 100 smells, boiling rice cakes, fried shallots, grilled shrimp paste. 100 sounds, laughter, bartering, clanging metal pans. Someone's yelling across a stall that so-and-so's daughter was seen holding hands behind the jackfruit tree. You try not to listen. You fail. You weave through stalls, dodging elbows and balancing your coins, looking for something simple. Maybe teller rebus, boiled eggs stained brown from simmering in spiced water. You spot a cellar with a pot of them, still warm, steam curling lazily from the lid. You buy two and pass one to your cousin. It's slightly salty, faintly herbal, and the yolk is dense like clay. Perfect. You tuck into it while pretending not to eavesdrop on two women arguing over which neighbor has the laziest husband. It's a close race, apparently. This morning ritual of eggs and exaggeration is as common as rice. Market gossip is like breakfast seasoning, sometimes a little too spicy, but rarely dull. And it always comes with food. A vendor calls out to you. She's just unwrapped fresh lupus, sticky rice cakes rolled in banana leaves, coated in grated coconut, and doused in thick palm sugar syrup. You buy one. You'd already eaten enough rice earlier, sure, but this is dessert rice. That's different. Historians still argue whether these early markets were dominated by barter or coin trade. In your village, both happen. You watch a woman trade a small fish for 3 limes. Another swaps woven fans for salted shrimp. But your mother gave you actual coins this time. Tiny, round, stamped with symbols you don't quite understand. Probably worth half a chicken. Maybe a third. Someone hands you a rolled ketan serundeng, sticky rice with spiced coconut topping. It's wrapped in a cone of banana leaf and meant to be eaten like an ice cream. You've never seen coconut used so aggressively. It's sweet and nutty, but with a suspicious kick of chili that catches you by surprise. There's a man squatting nearby, grilling something on skewers. It smells like heaven, so of course you wander over. He's selling satay teller puyu, quail eggs on bamboo sticks, brushed with fermented soy and garlic. You buy 2, because one is never enough. You tear into it while listening to someone whisper that the village head's brother has been visiting a widow. 3 nights in a row, with offerings. The man selling the satay smiles without asking. He knows why you're here. No one comes to the market just to eat. You come to see and be seen and to confirm rumors or plant new ones. It's not just gossip either. It's information. The healer's mother is sick. The river's running low. A wedding might be happening soon. The king's men passed through a village 2 days away. Someone's cousin saw them, or thinks they did. You learn more here in 15 minutes than you'd get in a whole week of sitting still. Here's your quirky fact of the day. In some villages, people believed that gossip at the market had magical properties. That words spoken before the sun reached its peak were lighter and more likely to come true. Morning curses, for example, hit harder. Morning blessings? Even better. It's part superstition, part social survival strategy. You pass a group of market girls braiding pandan leaves into makeshift baskets. One of them is singing an old rhyme about lovers sneaking out during moonless nights. Her friends giggle and elbow each other. Your cousin rolls her eyes. You whisper the next line of the rhyme, just loud enough to make them laugh harder. She smacks your arm. It's time to head back. Your basket is heavier than you expected, filled with tamarind, banana leaves, betel nut, maybe a little too much palm sugar. Your ears are full of other people's business. Your fingers are still sticky. The walk back is quieter. People are returning to homes, kids are dragging sacks of herbs, and somewhere in the distance, someone is pounding chili with a stone mortar again. It's the sound of daily life restarting, post-market. You pass the neighbor's house. Sure enough, the widow is sweeping her porch, alone. But you note the fresh offering at the gate. Breakfast in 14th century Java wasn't just eaten, it was performed. And the market is where the final act plays out. Later, back at home, your grandmother pretends she didn't ask you to eavesdrop. But she does raise an eyebrow when you mention the satay man saw soldiers heading north. She nods, murmurs something about checking the rice stores, then hands you a broom. Back to chores. But your stomach is full, your ears are buzzing, and your mind is replaying the morning's highlights. Snake fruit, sticky eggs, spicy jokes, and truths half wrapped in lies. Honestly, you'd call that a perfect breakfast. Back home again, you're sweeping the courtyard with the kind of half-hearted energy that only comes after too many boiled eggs and a sugar crash from palm syrup. The sun's climbing, your chores aren't done, and your cousin has already vanished into some shadowy spot to nap. But even through the sleepy haze, you find your mind drifting toward the places you aren't allowed to go. The palace, where breakfast looks nothing like yours. It's not that you've never seen it. Once, just once, you glimpsed a corner of the royal breakfast spread while tagging along on an errand to the Kraton, the seat of power. You weren't supposed to look, of course, but how could you not? There were bowls made of polished bronze, trays carved from teak and gilded with gold, and the food? It looked like it belonged to another world. You remember the fruit, peeled, sliced into spirals, arranged like flower petals. No one in your house peels fruit unless it's actively trying to bite back. And the rice. Of course there was rice, but it was white and soft and shaped into delicate little pyramids, each one crowned with a sprinkle of toasted sesame or finely crushed shrimp. You're still chewing on the memory. For the nobles, breakfast is ceremony. It isn't something you wolf down on a floor mat while swatting flies. It's served, quietly, with deference. carried in on lacquered trays by barefoot servants who keep their eyes low and their footsteps even lower. Historians agree on one thing: food in the Mapahit court wasn't just sustenance, it was symbolism, hierarchy, politics, and control, plated and portioned according to rank. You eat with your fingers. They used spoons made of carved wood, shell, or even polished gold if you were close enough to the king. Their breakfasts weren't spicy enough to make your nose run either. Refined, they'd call it. Bland, your grandfather would mutter. And while you sit cross-legged on woven mats, they perch on raised platforms or bamboo stools. Not for comfort. Status must be seen from a distance. Still, not everything on those polished tables was exotic. Some dishes overlapped with what you know: banana leaf parcels of glutinous rice, grilled river fish, sticky tamarind sauces. But even those were seasoned with saffron, cinnamon, nutmeg, luxuries brought in on monsoon winds from traders who risked death and bankruptcy just to sell it at court. You once overheard a rumor that the queen's favorite breakfast was nasi magono, rice topped with young jackfruit and grated coconut, spiced just enough to tingle. Except her version supposedly had edible flowers on top. For beauty. You tried to replicate it once. Didn't go well. The flour gave you a rash. Quirky fact for the day? Certain palace households trained royal tasters who ate the first bite of every dish to test for poison. If the taster fainted or dropped dead, well, that saved the nobility some trouble. It's hard to enjoy your rice when you're suspicious of every spoonful. Still, some parts of the noble meal are oddly strict. You once learned that certain mornings required silence during the meal, especially before a royal ceremony or when the king was in meditation. Silence while eating? Unthinkable in your house. Someone's always coughing, slurping, or teasing someone else for taking the biggest piece of fish. Historians still argue whether these royal food customs were borrowed from India, China, or were uniquely Javanese. The influence is clear, though. You've seen ancient statues near the temple gardens, figures in lotus position with serene expressions, holding bowls like offerings. Sacred food, sacred posture, sacred silence. Even the act of chewing had rules. One scribe claimed that loud chewing was frowned upon in the court of King Hayam-Wuruk, the great ruler of the Majapahit Empire. There's even a folktale of a noblewoman demoted simply for burping too enthusiastically during a ceremonial breakfast. Meanwhile, in your house, burping is a sign of appreciation. Go figure. You sometimes wonder what it'd be like to eat like them. Not just the food, but the feeling. Being served, observed, protected. Your life doesn't come with guards or gilded trays. Your breakfast might contain the same rice, the same fruit, but not the same power. And yet, there's something you'd miss: the heat, the mess. The way sambal makes your eyes water and your uncles laugh. The banana leaf tearing in your hands. The barefoot shuffle across a cool dirt floor. The nobles may have had cinnamon in their tea, but you have fire in your breakfast, and that counts for something. You pause in your sweeping. A breeze rustles the banana leaves. Somewhere, someone is pounding garlic and candle nuts into a paste. A rooster complains at the sky. Everything smells faintly of wood smoke and morning leftovers. You think of the girl in the palace, your age maybe, sitting stiffly with perfect posture, not allowed to speak until a priest gives a signal. You, meanwhile, get scolded for chewing too loudly and for not chewing loud enough, depending on the mood. Still, for all the rules, there's something alluring about that world of quiet luxury. Those gilded spoons and flour-garnished rice pyramids, their breakfast bites tiny and polite. Then again, who wants to eat politely when there's sambal that can make a grown man cry? You get back to sweeping. The nobles might have had servants, but in your house, the broom doesn't move itself. As you work, you hum a market song under your breath. Something about a sly lover and a stolen coconut. Your grandmother calls out. More chores, more reality. But your head's still halfway in the palace, wondering how soft their pillows are and whether gold spoons make food taste different. Spoiler, they don't. But it's nice to dream. You don't always eat breakfast at home. Some mornings begin with motion, with you already halfway down the road before the sun has cleared the trees. And on those days, breakfast doesn't wait for comfort or ceremony. It follows you, tucked into a banana leaf, warm against your palm, its steam slipping through the weave of your rattan basket. You're not alone. All along the footpaths, small groups stir and stretch and sling their bundles into place. There's a hum to the early world, A mix of sandals slapping earth, chickens squabbling under stilts, and someone's mother yelling about forgotten tools. Breakfast, in these moments, is whatever you can eat without slowing down. Traders, for instance, have this down to an art. A traveling spice merchant might carry a ball of sticky rice laced with coconut sugar, something that can be nibbled between arguments over peppercorn prices. A cloth seller balances a basket on her head filled with salted egg and cassava cakes, wrapped so cleverly the sauce doesn't leak no matter how fast she walks. Then there are the priests. Not the quiet, solemn monks, but the wandering Dharma teachers who move from village to village. You once gave one a bit of fermented cassava wrapped in palm leaf, and he blessed your chicken in return. Totally worth it. They tend to fast long stretches, but when they do eat, it's simple. Plain rice, boiled root vegetables, maybe a dried fruit. Always shared. Always eaten slowly, with eyes half closed in some kind of thoughtful chewing trance. Even laborers, on their way to clear irrigation canals or rebuild a shrine roof, carry small breakfast bundles tied to their waists. You've seen them hunker in the shade of a tree, chopsticks carved from twigs, dipping tofu into a thick chili paste with the kind of concentration that makes it look like holy work. And here's the thing. The faster people move, the slower they seem to savor. As if walking makes them remember to enjoy each bite. Unlike your cousin at home, who gulps down jackfruit rice pudding so fast he forgets to breathe. Sometimes your family travels too. When the rains flood your garden or a nearby temple holds a festival, you walk. On those days, your mother makes nasi bungkus, rice wrapped in layers of banana leaf with little surprises hidden inside. A slice of grilled eel, a dollop of fermented soybean paste, a wedge of boiled egg stained blue by butterfly pea flowers. She folds the bundle tight, tucks it into your satchel, and says, "Don't open it until your belly growls." Which is unfair, because your belly is growling now, just smelling it. Along the way, food smells float in from roadside stalls and field cook fires. Someone's grilling skewers. Someone else is roasting bananas. A cart rolls past, painted bright red, selling fried dough that smells like heaven and probably tastes like oil and regret. You want it. You always want it. One morning, during a long trip to your aunt's village, you passed a caravan of Chinese merchants. They were sitting under a tamarind tree, sipping something warm and sweet-smelling from delicate cups. Rice cakes the size of pebbles sat beside them, stacked like coins. You tried not to stare, but you also absolutely stared. A nearby farmer whispered that the cakes were made with honey and ground lotus seed, and the drink was some foreign tea boiled with dried orange peel. You had never tasted any of it, but you swore you could smell the stories in it. Boats and storms and distant ports. Historians still argue whether such trade foods made it into regular village diets or stayed locked within merchant clans and city gates. The truth is probably somewhere in between. You've never eaten lotus seed cake, but you've traded smoked duck eggs for cinnamon bark from a sailor once. That same sailor taught you a quirky trick. If you tie a banana leaf parcel with lemongrass twine, it stays fresh longer, even on long treks. You tried it. It worked. Your siblings were impressed. You were briefly famous in the household for having magic rice. Here's what's funny. Some people think portable breakfast is a modern invention. Wrapped sandwiches, drive-thrus, whatever. But you've seen entire temples built with bricks stacked by men eating on the go, their food stuffed into leaf cones long before lunchboxes ever existed. And the designs. Oh, the clever designs. Leaf folds that open like fans, ropes of twisted bamboo fiber, even edible wrappers made of rice paper. You once tried to copy one and ended up with sambal in your pocket. It was not your best day. Still, there's a thrill to breakfast on the move. You never know where you'll eat it. On a boulder overlooking rice paddies, on the edge of a broken bridge, perched in a tree hiding from your uncle's chore list. Once, you even ate under a waterfall, rain on your back, sambal on your chin. The sun's higher now, and you're on your way to the riverbank to help fetch clay. You unfold your own breakfast packet. It's warm, slightly crushed from being sat on. Inside, sticky rice with tamarind sauce and a bit of dried anchovy. You chew slowly, even though you're late. The wind smells of mud and flowers. Somewhere nearby, a bird shrieks like it's being overdramatic. Maybe it is. You finish eating, tuck the leaf into your belt to use later as a scoop, and keep walking. Food doesn't wait for ceremony when you're on the move. It waits for you to find a good rock, a good view, and 5 stolen minutes to taste your day. You feel it before you see it, the scent of something far too expensive to belong in your humble hut, a sharp, ticklish warmth in your nostrils, peppery, sweet, and dangerous. Cloves, not just a seasoning, not just for breakfast. Cloves are currency. Cloves are war. They've traveled farther than you ever will. From Maluku, the Spice Islands, days away by boat if the gods are kind and the pirates are lazy. You've never been. But you've heard tales of trees that whisper, guarded like treasure chests, by people who'd rather burn the branches than sell them to the wrong buyer. And somehow, here they are, 3 shriveled little things, nestled in your uncle's calloused palm like they were jewels. He traded them, probably. Maybe not entirely legally. You've learned not to ask. Cloves don't usually show up at breakfast, not for folks like you. But today's different. Today, your uncle is in a mood. He's shaved a bit into a rice porridge that smells like it wants to punch your brain awake. You eat it carefully, like it might report you to the Sultan. The thing is, these spices, cloves, cinnamon, nutmeg, black pepper, they're never just food. They're stories. Proof that someone in your family line was brave or foolish or lucky enough to get close to power. Back then, spice was weightier than gold. Literally. You could hand over a pouch of peppercorns and buy a boat, or a bride, or a priest's silence. But for you, it's breakfast, a rare treat, sure, but also a window into the politics of the kitchen. Historians still argue whether the Javanese people actually consumed large amounts of these exotic spices regularly, or if they were mostly traded away to China, India, and eventually those pale people from across the seas. You've heard your great-grandfather say, real spice never reaches the spoon. It's for shipping, for gifting, for flexing, not for frying. And yet, the smell of clove in the morning, it makes you feel like royalty. Or at least, like someone who can dream of being more than a rice stirrer. Of course, not all spice trades are grand affairs. Some are shadier. Your cousin once got caught smuggling cinnamon bark in a hollowed-out gourd. He'd planned to trade it at the harbor for a metal fishhook and a strip of silk. He got 3 days of sweeping temple floors instead. Still says it was worth it. You've heard rumors that in the capital, there's an entire black market for nutmeg. People sneaking into monasteries, bribing kitchen guards, slicing off tree bark in the dead of night. One man, they say, vanished into the forest and came back months later with a sack full of star anise and a haunted look in his eyes. Never spoke again. But his breakfasts? Legendary. These spices turn humble meals into alchemy, a bit of cardamom in your jackfruit stew, a dusting of mace on grilled plantain. Breakfast becomes a performance, a declaration that you matter, that someone in your house has connections. But even more than that, spice is a weapon. Your aunt once used clove oil to numb a toothache so bad she couldn't eat for 2 days. She cried when she tasted rice again. Then she laughed. Then she slapped your uncle because he made a joke about her sounding like a frog. You've also seen cinnamon bark boiled into medicinal broth, given to the village healer to treat stomach cramps and evil winds. Not everyone buys into it, but the smell alone is enough to make you feel better, or at least distracted. Sometimes spices are status signals at religious events. A certain incense blend at the temple means a noble family has donated cloves again. It's not even subtle. The smoke rises like a royal flag. Meanwhile, in your hut, the most exotic scent you manage on most mornings is grilled eggplant. But today, you taste the world. Just a little. Just enough. Your breakfast porridge is still mostly rice and water. Maybe a sliver of fried banana leaf for flair, but that pinch of clove, that burn on your tongue, that's empire. And it makes you wonder, how much spice got stolen just to make mornings like this possible? You remember a story your grandfather told, half whispered over a bowl of ginger tea, about a merchant ship docked under moonlight, men unloading barrels. A boy, he swore it was him, sneaking behind sacks of salt to steal a single dried clove. He ran for miles, hid it in his blanket for weeks, crushed it into breakfast on the morning of his wedding. That's what spice meant. Memory, sacrifice, daring. Nowadays, some of the magic's gone. The rich hoard their spice, the middle class trade it like currency, and the poor, they sniff the air and pretend they're full. Still, some mornings you get lucky. Like today, when your uncle decided to be generous, when the porridge tasted like rebellion and romance, and maybe even a little bit of history. You lick your lips. The heat lingers. Your cousin pokes you and grins. You're chewing like a noble. You grin back, mouth still burning. I eat like one too. And just like that, the bowl is empty. You don't talk while chewing. Well, not loudly, because some breakfasts are being watched by spirits, by ancestors, by the nosy lady 3 doors down, but also by law. You've known since you could hold a clay spoon that not everything is fair game. Some foods, no matter how tempting, don't make it to your plate, not because they're rare, but because they're forbidden. Take pork, for instance. In your village, it's complicated. Some folks cook it openly during certain festivals, roasting it over slow fires until the scent curls like incense. Others wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot palm frond. They say pigs are dirty or sacred or both. Depends on who you ask and when. The same goes for beef. A cow in 14th century Java isn't just an animal. It's an engine, a dowry, a temple worker. Killing one? That's serious. You've heard of kings banning beef slaughter outright to align with Hindu reverence. But then, next valley over, you saw beef satay getting passed around like candy. Historians still argue whether such restrictions were strictly enforced or just political posturing. Like royal tweets, but carved in stone. And then there's crocodile meat. Wait, no, crocodile dung. Not for eating, but for smearing on your skin as sunblock. Your cousin tried it once, thinking it would impress girls. It didn't. But the point is, people have deep, tangled beliefs about what can go into a body. Religious doctrine, court edict, clan taboo, they all leave fingerprints on breakfast. Some say eggs must be offered to ancestors before eating, lest your luck spoil with the yolk. Others insist garlic wards off demons, but only if crushed left-handed. Try doing that before your first cup of palm sap tea. There are even foods restricted by caste. A royal guard might breakfast on smoked duck breast and fragrant rice dyed yellow with turmeric. Meanwhile, the potter's apprentice gets fermented cassava and a scolding, not because the duck is rare, because it's not for him. Food equals status, and status follows you all the way to the cooking fire. Still, you've learned some clever workarounds, like borrowing ingredients from temple kitchens when nobody's watching. Not stealing, borrowing. You once helped stir a pot of turmeric broth and accidentally kept a handful of shallots tucked in your sash. They tasted like sin. Delicious. Or the secret recipes passed between families like smuggled letters. Your grandmother knows how to make mock eel from roasted banana stems. Your neighbor's aunt makes spiced meat patties out of mashed jackfruit. They look fancy. They aren't. But they let folks play pretend on festival days, when the real thing is too expensive or too sacred to touch. One time, a trader tried to sell your village a shipment of foreign spices from across the sea. Nutmeg, mace, star anise, beautiful, fragrant, and completely baffling. Half the elders thought it was cursed. The other half thought it was breakfast. You ended up with a bowl of sweet rice pudding that smelled like a sailor's prayer book and tasted like a perfumed dream. That night, nobody slept. Too much spice. Too many dreams. Foreign foods, by the way, weren't just taste experiments. They were power plays. Control the spice, control the world, or at least the breakfast table. A handful of cloves could get you a gold ring, or a night in the village jail if they thought you stole it. So you're careful. You learn what to cook when and for whom. During the Saka New Year, for instance, breakfast gets lighter, cleaner. Fewer fried things, more boiled things. Coconut milk is optional. Offerings must be prepared before your own bowl is filled. You don't argue. You just chew slower. During certain eclipses, you're not allowed to cook at all. The sun's shadow is a sign. The world holds its breath, and your stomach does too. You once tried to sneak a bite of jackfruit under your blanket during a lunar eclipse. Your sister screamed. Your mother screamed louder. You went to bed spiritually contaminated and physically hungry. Still, not all forbidden foods are tied to belief. Sometimes it's just good old-fashioned danger. A certain fish, if not cleaned just right, can paralyze your jaw. A bright red berry that looks exactly like breakfast but acts exactly like poison. Your neighbor once ate the wrong mushroom and spent 2 days believing he was a rooster. He's fine now. Mostly. There are other layers too. Gendered rules. Girls, in some households, aren't allowed to eat pineapple during their cycles. Boys are told never to eat mango before midday, or they'll grow up soft. You're not sure what that means, but your uncle seems really serious about it. And sometimes the rules don't make sense at all. like how leftover rice from last night must never be reheated in a clay pot with 3 legs. Why? Because it calls ghosts, apparently. You tried it once, it called ants. But there's one rule that sticks with you more than any other. Never eat before you've fed something else. A spirit, a bird, a neighbor, even just a chicken. The idea is balance, gratitude, respect. You can chew, but not until someone else chews first. It's the invisible spine of your food world, one that holds up every banana leaf, every grain of steamed rice. So you sit cross-legged, steam curling in the morning light, and you wait your turn. You watch the offerings burn gently on the altar. You hear the cluck of a hungry hen beside you. You toss her a few grains. She clucks, satisfied. Then, and only then, do you bring the first bite to your lips. You pause before eating. Not out of politeness. Not because it's too hot. Not even because your cousin has stolen your spoon again and is giggling like he invented mischief. You pause because this meal isn't entirely yours. In 14th century Java, before you put anything in your mouth, someone or something else eats first. Offerings. You pick up a pinch of rice, careful not to let it scatter, and place it gently on a chipped terracotta plate near the door. No one speaks during this part. Even your loud uncle lowers his voice. The rice is joined by a sliver of fried tofu, half a banana, and a flower. Sometimes frangipani, sometimes hibiscus. Whatever's fresh and smells like a prayer. You don't need to believe for it to be important. The act matters more than the intent. These offerings are for spirits, ancestors, wandering gods, house guardians, or perhaps just the old tree out back. You never really know. Maybe it's all of them. Maybe it's none. But you do it anyway. Everyone does. Because one time someone forgot and their goat went missing for a week. Another time, a coconut fell through a roof right after someone insulted a shrine. Coincidence? Maybe. But why risk it when all it costs is a bit of rice? You watch as your grandmother lights a thin sliver of incense. The smoke curls lazily around the doorway like it's trying to remember where it's going. It smells of burnt sandalwood and old secrets. She mutters something under her breath, half spell, half scolding. She could be talking to her late husband, or a banana spirit, or just the air itself. Then she waves her hand once, and that's the sign. The offering's been accepted. Now you may eat. Except the cat's beaten you to it. Again. That mangy orange furball with one ear and no manners is already nibbling the tofu chunk from the offering plate. No one stops him. Some believe that cats are messengers. Others think they're just freeloaders. But either way, you don't shoo him off. That would be rude. Or unlucky. So you settle back down and finally start on your own portion. Warm rice, salty tempeh, sambal so spicy it could probably summon its own demon. You chew with care, knowing you're not eating alone. You glance toward the rafters, where a small bowl of fruit has been tied up with banana fiber string. A sky offering, your uncle calls it, for the wind, or the passing souls, or maybe the family of squirrels that's taken residence up there. Historians still argue whether these Sajan rituals were mostly spiritual or whether they served a more practical purpose, like creating a culture of gratitude and discipline around food. Either way, they shape your mornings more than hunger ever could. Sometimes, on market days, you see even the merchants stop and bow towards small altars tucked between baskets of chilies and garlic. They'll sprinkle rice grains beside a bronze idol, then immediately go back to haggling like nothing happened. It's not about being holy. It's about balance. Giving a little before you take a lot. Your friend Wayan once dared to eat before the offering was placed. Just once. That same afternoon, he tripped into a patch of cow dung and had to go to temple barefoot. Nobody said, "I told you so," but everyone thought it very loudly. Even travelers on the road wrap tiny bits of their breakfast, dried fish, steamed yam, sticky rice in palm leaf, and leave them at crossroads or shrines. They say it keeps the journey smooth or the tigers uninterested. And if you're really late and don't have time for the full offering, you spit a single grain of rice onto the ground. Even that's better than nothing. There's something grounding about it, like acknowledging that you're not the center of the meal. Your breakfast bowl holds more than food. It holds the weight of generations, the echo of chance, and the quiet hum of obligation. You remember your mother once told you, if you feed the unseen, the seen will feed you. At the time, you were 6 and mostly just wanted more jackfruit. But now, it makes sense. Sometimes the line between tradition and superstition is just a chicken feather wide. And speaking of chickens, yours is pecking at the offering too. You sigh. Today's spirit meal is a buffet. Your aunt chuckles and hands you an extra banana leaf. The gods are generous, she says, winking, especially when they like your cooking. You think about that, about how this morning ritual, which feels so mundane, is actually a kind of theater, a small ceremony where everyone plays a part: the cook, the eater, the offering giver, the rice, the flour, even the cat. And in that moment, you realize breakfast in 14th century Java isn't just about survival, it's about respect, rhythm, relationship to the land, the past, the invisible. You finish your meal with a last bite of sticky rice. The sun has fully risen, the incense stick has burned down, the cat is asleep, the sky offering is untouched, unless, of course, the spirits are sneakier than squirrels. Probably. You brush off your hands, place your bowl aside, and glance once more at the empty offering plate. Nothing's left on it. Nothing visible anyway. Work. The morning is quiet for once. Your cousin has wandered off to chase ducks, the cat is too full of stolen offerings to cause chaos, and the hearth still glows faintly beneath its mound of ash. But you're not feeling great. Something's off. Maybe it was that fermented jackfruit from last night. Maybe it's the changing season. Or maybe you just inhaled too much chili sambal on an empty stomach. Whatever the reason, your belly's making noises like a bullfrog in a metal drum. And this is where breakfast becomes something entirely different: medicine. You shuffle over to your grandmother, who's already 3 steps ahead of you. Without a word, she motions for you to sit and begins tearing leaves into a clay pot. A handful of ginger root, a sprinkle of turmeric, the peel of something bitter and green. She mutters under her breath again, not the same kind of mutter as during the offerings. This one sounds more annoyed. "Did you drink river water again?" she asks. You look at your feet. She doesn't need an answer. In 14th century Java, illness is treated first with food. Sometimes that means avoiding certain things. No coconut milk, no greasy tempeh, not even a sniff of shrimp paste. Other times, it means slurping down a bowl of something that smells like a haunted tree. You watch as she ladles hot broth into a wooden cup. It's thick and yellowish, and steam curls from its surface like a warning sign. It's buber manir, a rice porridge made with water-soaked millet, tamarind leaves, and shredded ginger. It tastes not great. More specifically, it tastes like if sadness had a soup. But it works. Somehow, the warmth spreads from your stomach outward like a tiny campfire lit inside your chest. You feel better before you're even halfway through the bowl. This is the kind of breakfast you only get when you're sick, or pretending to be sick, if you just really want a day off from rice-pounding duty. Historians still debate whether jamu, Java's ancient herbal medicine tradition, was strictly food, spiritual ritual, or early pharmacology. But to you, it's just that cup of liquid gold your grandmother hands you when you're pale and cranky. Some days it's a turmeric blend. Other days it's lemongrass and shallots. And when things get really bad, she'll break out the boiled beetle root and something that smells like scorched bark. You once watched her dig up a root at dawn, mutter to it, then mash it into your brother's porridge with a stone pestle. His fever broke before noon. Coincidence? Maybe. You're not brave enough to question it. You sip slowly, while outside, the rest of the village continues its breakfast in more typical fashion. A neighbor waves as she carries a bundle of leafy greens and rice porridge wrapped in banana leaf to her elderly mother. Down by the riverside, a boy nurses a cup of hot palm sugar tea, sweet and smoky, the closest thing you'll get to comfort food around here. Food in Java isn't always delicious. Sometimes it's functional, or symbolic, or barely edible. There's a porridge made from charred rice husks, once given to mothers after childbirth, not because it tasted good, but because it was believed to cool the body and restore balance. You tried it once. It tasted like chewing a chimney. There's also beras kencher, a jamu blend made from rice, galangal, and tamarind. Some people drink it daily, believing it strengthens the body and sharpens the mind. Others just enjoy the weirdly refreshing aftertaste that makes your mouth pucker like you just insulted a sour fruit. Your uncle, the one who claims to be able to talk to frogs, swears by kunyit asam, a bright orange drink of turmeric and tamarind that supposedly burns bad spirits out of your bones. He also says it makes your farts smell like incense. No one's confirmed this. Even children aren't spared. When you're small and cough too much, your aunt makes you chew on a cinnamon stick and chase it with a hot herbal tea that tastes like earth and forgotten promises. If you're lucky, she adds honey. If not, you suffer. But these food medicine crossovers aren't just weird jungle potions. They're a core part of how your community eats. Every home has its own recipe. Every elder swears theirs is the best. Every ailment has a corresponding leaf or root. Even heartbreak has a tea blend, mostly bitter things and lots of ginger. And when someone passes away, the family gathers and eats bland rice gruel, boober pudi, for days. It's gentle on the stomach, but also a form of mourning. A signal that taste should pause, even if hunger doesn't. Not all breakfast is cheerful. Sometimes it's a slow act of healing. Sometimes it's just what your body needs before your heart catches up. Your grandmother refills your cup, this time adding a leaf she calls Don Kejibeling. You've heard it cures ulcers, headaches, and bad decisions. You sip it anyway. Your cat, once again, tries to climb into your lap. Maybe he's sick too, or maybe he's just after the warm porridge. You share a spoonful because he has terrible manners and you're feeling generous. As the heat of the day begins to rise, you feel the dull ache in your stomach fade. The rice porridge isn't tasty, exactly, but there's something soothing about it. Like it knows more about your insides than you do. You lie back, staring at the woven palm ceiling, belly full of potions, and think, breakfast today wasn't delicious, but it was kind. And in Java, kindness is sometimes the strongest medicine there is. You wake to the sound of the gamelan from the temple compound, a gentle chime of bronze that floats like morning mist through the trees. Your stomach growls. You instinctively reach for the woven food basket by your sleeping mat, but the moment your fingers touch the lid, your aunt claps her hands sharply and points to the calendar on the wall. The Powukon calendar. Not your modern Sunday to Saturday deal, but a rotating 210-day cycle of numerological weirdness, layered weeks and holy days stacked like a deck of cards no one quite understands. And today is a fasting day. You groan, no breakfast, not a bite, not a sip, not even a rogue grain of rice stuck in the corner of your mouth. Fasting in 14th century Java isn't optional. It's embedded into the cycles of religion, spirituality, and cultural etiquette. You're not even sure which one you're observing today. Hindu, Buddhist, local animist tradition, or a mix of all three. But it doesn't matter. The kitchen fire stays cold. The mortar is quiet. Even the chickens look confused. There's no sizzle of tempeh, no crackle of coconut oil, no sour whiff of tamarind soup, just you, your hollow belly, and the slow, creeping realization that breakfast is, for today at least, a fantasy. You're not alone, though. The whole village is in sync. Children are quieter, adults more reflective. The warung stalls stay shuttered. Even the dogs seem more subdued, like they've picked up on the communal pause. No one's trading eggs or wrapping rice in leaves. Instead, people are sweeping their courtyards, repairing shrines, or sitting in meditation. The world is slower. Historians still argue whether these fasting practices were religious mandates, acts of purification, or socioeconomic strategies to stretch limited food resources. Whatever the origin, fasting isn't just about not eating. It's about remembering why you eat at all. Still, it doesn't stop you from daydreaming. You find yourself mentally assembling your ideal breakfast plate. Steamed white rice, warm and fluffy. Sweet soy marinated tofu, sliced thin. A side of sambal that makes your lips tingle. A few crispy anchovies sprinkled over the top. Maybe a wedge of mango. Maybe two. You sigh. Your aunt scolds you with a look. Thoughts are cheating, apparently. To pass the time, you head down to the river, where others are washing clothes or collecting water in silence. You notice some families give offerings to the river spirits instead of eating. A simple palm leaf tray with a few grains of rice and a flower. It's not much, but it's meaningful. A gesture of restraint, of respect. Fasting, you realize, is its own kind of meal. A spiritual palate cleanser. A reminder that food is a privilege, not a promise. And it's not just today. Javanese culture is filled with cyclical fasts, the full moon, new moon, days of silence, days of abstention. Some people fast one day a week, others fast according to the lunar calendar. Some skip just breakfast, while others go without food or water until sunset. It's complex, personal, and deeply embedded in daily life. The body isn't punished, it's trained. Just like you train your fingers to tie pandan leaf knots or your ears to catch the distant clang of the blacksmith's forge, you train your hunger too. But let's be honest, it still sucks when your cousin starts chewing sugarcane behind the goat shed. You're not supposed to get mad, but you do. By midday, your senses are sharper. You can smell someone frying shallots 3 houses away. You hear the squish of fermenting banana from a compost heap. You can even imagine the texture of roasted coconut flakes between your teeth. And yet, something settles. Your belly complains less. Your mind quiets. You sit under a tree and breathe. Not because you're enlightened, but because standing up takes effort. By mid-afternoon, your uncle begins preparing the breaking fast meal. It's not elaborate, just a humble boober sum-sum, a soft rice flour pudding with palm sugar syrup, warm and slippery like a hug you can swallow. It will be shared, eaten slowly, with words of gratitude and probably some teasing. You sneak a glance at the sun, inching westward. Almost there. There's something strangely empowering about this emptiness. This pause. This communal agreement to wait. You start to think about all the breakfasts that came before, the feasts, the leftovers, the banana wrap bundles, the ginger bitter porridges. How each morning was a small act of rebuilding. How food wasn't just about hunger, it was about family, belief, identity, survival, and sometimes rebellion. You remember that time your neighbor served pork despite the taboos because it's what her grandmother did. Or when the priest refused anything but boiled rice for a week to mourn a bad harvest. Or the time your cousin accidentally ate offering rice and blamed the dog. Food is memory, and on fasting days, you remember more vividly than ever. The sun finally touches the tree line. Your aunt lights a small lamp. No fanfare, no chanting, no fireworks, just the quiet clink of a clay spoon against a wooden bowl. The first bite of pudding coats your tongue like silk. Sweet, warm, forgiving. Breakfast, you realize, doesn't always come in the morning. Sometimes it arrives after patience. Sometimes it tastes like victory. Wind down, final 300 words. The night thickens around you like velvet, soft and warm. The fire has long since dimmed to embers. Somewhere in the dark, a gecko clicks its tongue. The trees rustle, not with urgency, but with the slow breath of a world settling in. You stretch out on the sleeping mat, belly finally full, mind hazy with stories and steam. You think of the rice fields under moonlight, the way water shimmers like silver thread through the terraces. You think of clay bowls, banana leaves, palm sugar, and the quiet defiance of a hot porridge shared in silence. All those breakfasts, ordinary, sacred, medicinal, forbidden, taught you something, even if you didn't know it at the time. About community, about resilience, about finding comfort in rituals, and sometimes in restraint. Your breath slows. You're not thinking of hunger anymore. You're not thinking of fish sauce or fasting days or the terrifying strength of grandmother's medicinal tea. You're just here, in the quiet hum of night, a listener in a story that stretches back centuries. Let the memories blur into dreams now. Let the river lull you with its slow song. Let the scent of charred rice and pandan leaf drift through your thoughts one last time.